Good morning, everybody. We're live here from the Birdhouse. It is towards the end of November already. We are November 23rd. And today, because some areas have been getting snow a little bit further south of us, I thought we could talk about the different birds that are coming in for the winter, how you can best attract them to your backyard, and what kind of birds those are. So, as always, we love to know what kind of things you're seeing. If you've got any sightings, you can put those in the comments. If you have questions, you can put those in there too, or you can just say hi. If you are local, this weekend we have our jigsaw puzzle swap, which is very, very popular. That's going on all weekend. So that's going on today, which is Saturday until 6. And then it's also going on 9 to 5 tomorrow on Sunday. Not only that, but our coupons are out. And so make sure to bring those in, and you can use those on just about everything in the store beside our seed, which is always on sale. If you do our buy four get one, that is really the only thing that is excluded from the coupon. All of our single bags of seed, everything like that, you can use your coupon on. So we've got a lot of new products in store, which I'm sure I will show you in future broadcasts, but I thought I'd show you just one in particular, which has been really popular. We just got some new baseball caps in, which are super fun. We have them in different designs and different styles. This one has a big pileated woodpecker on it, but we also have some with owls. We have them with even dinosaurs and salamanders and a whole bunch of different birds, bluebirds, goldfinches, orioles, cardinals. And on the back, it does have our, if I can get it in the right area here, it has our name. And so it says the Birdhouse, Rochester, New York. So you can represent the store also. So thought I'd share those. Those have been very, very great. We just got them in just about a week ago, and people have been loving them. So we'll have some more branded gear for you soon, maybe even on Tuesday. I can announce the next round of branded gear that we have coming in for sale. We should have it here and out by then. But anyways, we will get started with how to attract birds in your backyard in the winter and what kind of birds those are. First of all, if you are local to the area, to the upstate New York area, Western New York area, the Rochester area is a fabulous place for birding. And of course, species will vary depending on the season. But in November, there's still a pretty good amount of different species in the area. So generally, on average in November, about 153 different species can be found. And just to kind of compare with our highest month as far as the number of species, that's going to be in May, where you can find about 238 different species. So they'll vary depending on the season. In May, for example, you're probably not going to see something like this snowy owl, but just now in November, they're starting to turn up, and we have had some local sightings of snowy owl, which is really exciting. Last year, we really didn't have many sighted at all in the wintertime, but already there's been at least one sighted out by Braddock Bay, one out by Sodus Point, and one out by Irondequoit National Wildlife Refuge. So it seems like we are going to have some snowy owl activity this winter. So we'll keep you posted on that, which is pretty exciting. As far as attracting birds to your yard in the winter, it's going to be the same kind of idea, the same things that you would need to attract birds any time of the year: food, water, and shelter. So we might as well start with water. That's the easiest out of all of them, I would say. Birds love water. They need water to drink. They need it to clean their feathers. And so we talk a lot about providing water in the spring and in the summer, and how moving water can attract even a bigger diversity of birds, which is totally true. It can be hard to provide birds with some of this moving water in the winter months if your bird bath freezes over. So in the wintertime, once it starts dipping below freezing, you can still provide birds with water by using a heated bird bath. So we do have heated bird baths that you plug in. They operate on a thermostat, and they don't make the water hot. They just keep the water unfrozen. So once the water gets to be around 39, 40 degrees or so, it shuts off. So it's never going to be really hot. It'll just keep the water unfrozen. So we have the heated bird baths, which are all enclosed. The heating element is all enclosed inside. Or if you have a bird bath that can be left out all winter, if you've got one that's plastic or metal, you can put just a heater inside of that bird bath. So we have both of these options. We also, so most of our things will operate on a thermostat. We do have one heater that doesn't. It's less expensive, but it does run constantly. So we always recommend the heaters that run on a thermostat. That way they're not running all the time. Some animals that love water, not that you'll necessarily see these in your backyard unless you have a large body of water, but mallards. Mallards are here all year round. You might also see things like black duck, which look similar to mallards, red-breasted merganser, really common all winter long. They've got those crazy feathers on their head. They dive under the water to look for food, really fun to watch. We have ring-billed gull, and if you can find open bodies of water in the winter, bald eagle are here all year round. So birds, the small songbirds will be attracted to those smaller bodies of water, and then the large ducks and the birds of prey will go more towards those big bodies of water. We have some birds of prey that are here year round as well, like the red-tailed hawk. I've been seeing lots of those around. They are residents. They are here all year round. And merlin, lots of reports of merlin. They are a small falcon, and you can find them here in the wintertime as well. And they tend to be found around water themselves. So small little falcon, kind of about the size of the American kestrel, but you can see their coloration is not the same as that kestrel. Now, if you have your birdhouses out, you want to make sure that they are cleaned out. We do have lots of birds that nest in them, like the bluebirds, house sparrows, wrens, like the Carolina wren and the house wren, all common birds that will nest in houses, but right now it's not nesting season. They might use those nest boxes to roost in to stay out of the elements. But these birds are all here year round. We've got the bluebirds. Some of them will stay around all winter. Some of them migrate a little bit further south. They don't do a full migration like, say, the warblers do and the orioles. They're not going to go down to Mexico or Central or South America, but they might go down to Pennsylvania, to the Carolinas, down south a little bit further where food isn't as scarce. House sparrows we have all year round, for better or for worse. And wrens like the Carolina wren are becoming winter residents as well. So I've been having a Carolina wren singing every morning in my backyard. I can hear it. And then in the winter, we get this little tiny wren called the winter wren. Not really a bird you're going to see coming to your bird feeders like the Carolina wren will, but they are here. Tiny little wren, and you can see they've got that tiny little tail that sticks up. Super, super cute little bird that comes in the wintertime. We've got the chickadees, which are cavity nesters. They're going to be here year round as well. You might see them hanging out around the houses, but really they're going to come to the bird feeders. But you might see larger birds of prey using boxes if you've got bigger boxes out, like screech owl. Screech owl will call throughout the winter months as well as in the spring when they're looking for a mate. They start mating pretty early, around March or so, from March until May. So if you've got screech owl boxes out, you might see them in there, even in the wintertime, and they'll stick their heads out, kind of like the picture here, and they'll sun themselves to get warmth. If you do have screech owl boxes out, you might get other things like European starlings getting in there, or even squirrels. So some things to look for if you've got larger nesting boxes out. But what a lot of people keep out in the wintertime are these roosting pockets. So these roosting pockets aren't really great for nesting, but they are small woven pockets that can be hung from a tree or put in bushes. And they're pretty shallow, so the birds tend not to nest in them, but they'll use them to stay out of the elements, to stay out of the rain and the snow and the wind and the cold. So we just got a whole big shipment of these in some brand new styles. So these are super popular in the wintertime to give birds some kind of shelter and to keep them out of the snow. Not really going to use the nesting material so much this time of the year. So if you've got nesting material still out, you can probably get rid of that until, say, April or so when they start using it again. But although birds will come to the water features and they'll sometimes use the nesting cavities in the wintertime, the best way to attract birds all year round, including the winter months when food is more scarce, is going to be with bird feeders. And as far as bird feeders go, you always want to make sure to check the seed for the quality, first of all, for the quality, for what's in it, for the ingredients, and then also to make sure that it hasn't gone bad. So as far as your seed goes, the better the quality seed, the more diversity of birds you'll get. If you've got a seed that mix that kind of looks like this, that has a lot of millet in it, or cracked corn, if it's got a lot of little yellow pieces in it, the birds will eat that sometimes, but they tend to throw it on the ground. So you really want to get a blend that has a lot of black oil sunflower in it, safflower. If you can get a blend that has peanuts in it, the birds absolutely love that. This is our chickadee blend. This is our best seller, and for good reason. There's really something in here for any kind of bird that's going to come to a backyard backyard bird feeder, anything that is a seed feeder or a seed eater. There's something in here for them. So you definitely want to check for the quality of your seed, and then make sure that moisture isn't getting into those feeders and causing mold. So during the wintertime, you can put up weather guards on your bird feeders to keep the snow and the rain out, and that can help alleviate some of this. But if you're not seeing birds coming to your feeders, take a look at it. This happens especially like a picture like this especially happens in the early spring, when maybe throughout the winter moisture's been getting into the feeder and it can cause the seed to get moldy. And then if you look closely, these seeds are all starting to sprout as well. So it must have gotten very humid in that bird feeder. So you want to make sure that this doesn't happen. And then this is another common occurrence. If you look at the edge of the feeder here, it's all green and moldy. So that is not good for the birds either. So you want to make sure you don't have any of that going on at your bird feeder. If you do, you can clean it out. And what we use when we clean bird feeders here at the store, if you soak it in hot water with dish soap, that does most of the work for you. Then you can scrub it out with bottle brushes or pipe cleaners. We've got brushes here that can be used to clean out bird feeders. So that's really all you need to do. You can dip it in a light bleach solution too. That's 1 part bleach and 10 parts water, and that can help kill off any kind of mold or bacteria that's in there. You want to make sure that you rinse it off really well and you let it dry completely, and then you're good to go. Like I mentioned, you can always put out weather guards. That can be super helpful, especially for keeping the snow out and the rain. It's been super rainy around here. And we've got a whole bunch of different types of weather guards that you can use. We've got clear ones, we've got colorful ones, and you basically just hang these above your feeder, and it's just a little umbrella to keep your feeder dry and also the birds that are using it. So that's an accessory you can always use. As far as your feeders go and the seed that goes in the feeders, if you're not sure what type of seed to get, if you're not sure what kind of seed blend and you're not using our chickadee blend or anything like that, you can't go wrong with the black oil sunflower seed. So that will give you the most diversity out of any one type of seed. But again, you want to make sure it's always fresh. And we get our seed in every week. We get it delivered fresh. Every single week we get a seed delivery. So you know that when you get your seed here, it is always super fresh. Some birds that'll be here all winter long are going to be cardinals, which are definitely a favorite of most people. They require a feeder with a lot of perching room. So you want to make sure you've got something that has lots of room for them to perch, whether it be long perches like this one here, or a tray feeder, or a tube feeder with a tray on the bottom. Something that has a lot of surface area for them to perch on is great. Some people also get evening grosbeaks in the winter time. They're one of these eruptive species that sometimes come down to this area in the winter. We haven't really had any sightings this year of evening grosbeak, but you never know. We have had customers and staff members both that have gotten them at their feeders. They will come to the same types of feeders that your cardinals will. They're in the same family as the cardinal, and they love the sunflower seed. They love the safflower seed. So if you're lucky, you might come across an evening grosbeak. You're probably familiar with rose-breasted grosbeak, which will come through in the spring pretty commonly, but the evening grosbeak are much more rare and uncommon. Mourning doves, we've got mourning doves all year as well, and they like a lot of perching room. And of course, we have squirrels. Squirrels are active all year round. They are not going to hibernate like chipmunks do. Chipmunks will hibernate, so you probably won't see them much more. Once it's starting to get cooler, we might get some snow next week, possibly. And once that starts to happen, the chipmunks will go underground and hang out there for the winter time. But squirrels are active all year round, so you'll have them at your feeders. And there are different things you can do to keep the squirrels away. Just like any other time of the year, we've got things called squirrel buster feeders. We do have squirrel proof feeders that are from different brands. The squirrel buster is our best seller, and they all operate the same kind of way where they're weight sensitive. So these feeders are great for a wide variety of birds. You can get multiple birds on them at a time. The birds are super light. They're mostly feathers. They've got those hollow bones. But as soon as the squirrel gets on the feeder, it'll drop down and they can't get to the seed. So there are such things as squirrel-proof feeders. You can also squirrel-proof your feeder setup depending on what kind of setup you have for your feeders. If you've got a pole system or if you've got a shepherd's hook, you can put what's called a baffle on the pole. And baffles, as long as you put them up high enough, about 4 or 5 feet high, and as long as they're away from other structures or trees that the squirrels can launch themselves from, so about 7 feet or so away from trees, shrubs, anything like that. As long as your feeder setup is that far away, these baffles will work just fine. The squirrel will try to climb up the pole. They can't get around these big metal devices here, and they get discouraged and will go elsewhere. So the location of your feeder does matter. You want to make sure that it's far enough away from other things that the squirrel can't launch itself. But if you can have it, within 10 feet or so of trees and shrubs, that's always good because the birds do like to have some kind of a cover in order to protect themselves, and then they can fly to the feeder from there. Now, you might not get just squirrels, but deer are another common animal that will raid your bird feeders, especially at night. It can be tough to keep the deer out. You can raise the feeder up if you can, depending on what kind of shepherd's hook or pole you might have. You might be able to add an extension to make it higher so the deer can't feed from it. That being said, the deer can stand up on their back legs. They can be super, super tall. So there's other things you can do. We have hot sauce called Flaming Squirrel seed sauce that you can mix in with your bird seed. And how this works is that the mammals can taste the hot sauce. They can taste that hot and they don't like it, but the birds don't taste it, so they don't mind it at all. So this is one way to keep not only squirrels out of your feeders, but the deer as well. So this is a really popular product, but what's even more popular now is we have birdseed that's already coated with this seed sauce, and now we have it from different brands. We've got it in different sizes. This is a really popular one called Flaming Hot Feast. This comes in just about a 5-pound bag, which has been really popular, but now we also have 20-pound bags of a blend, a seed blend that's been treated with hot sauce called our spicy mix. And so that is the best value. And if you do the buy 4 get 1 free on that seed, that is your ultimate best value to keep the squirrels out with the hot seed. So the hot seed is definitely more expensive, but you can put it in any feeder in any location and you don't have to worry about squirrels or deer. So this also works well for things like window feeders that are tough to squirrel proof and deer proof. There's also safflower seed. So safflower seed won't keep the deer away, but it does help keep squirrels away. Squirrels don't like the safflower seed so much, and so they really don't eat it. And it's a favorite of things like the cardinals. The house finches absolutely love safflower. Purple finches, which are more common in the wintertime, they love the safflower. But birds like the European starling don't like the safflower so much. They just don't eat it. So if you are looking to attract some of our native birds, you can put safflower seed out and you won't get things like the starlings in general, which are here all winter. They don't migrate. They are a resident and they can form huge flocks at feeders. Same like the grackles. Now, grackles are migratory, so they're really on their way out. I've seen a couple around recently, but in general, you're not going to have them here in the winter like you will in the spring and summer. They're really, really common, but they don't like the safflower seed either. So you can always put that safflower seed out to attract things like the cardinals and the finches, and you don't have to worry about the starlings and the grackles. And then, of course, there's the Niger seed. Great for the goldfinches, which aren't gold this time of the year, but more of a drab kind of olive color, like the picture on the left. So they are not going to be bright gold this time of the year, but they are around all winter long. So keeping your Niger feeders out are great for them. You also might see things like the pine siskin, which is more common at feeders in the wintertime, and common redpoll. Haven't had any common redpoll sighted, but this is another one of those eruptive species that sometimes will come down here south for the winter if food up north is a little bit more scarce. So there have been years where where the redpolls are just so numerous that they just will cover Niger feeders and really devour the seed, which is fun. Then there's seed logs. Love these seed logs, especially in the winter. You don't have to change them out as often as you would your other feeders. You don't have to fill them as often. They are condensed logs of seed, and it takes the birds a while to feed from them. So with your typical bird feeders, the birds will land on them, they grab some seeds out of there, and then they fly away. With these seed log feeders, they kind of have to perch there for a while and peck away at it in order to eat the food. And so it can take the birds longer to do that. So these last quite a bit longer. For example, I'm filling my bird feeders up every day, every other day. Depending on the size, some of these seed logs will last almost 2 weeks in my backyard. So they do last quite a long time. So especially in the winter, if there's a lot of snow and you don't want to be going outside every day to refill things, these seed logs are fantastic. Also popular in the wintertime. If you're not feeding these during the spring and summer, you might want to consider putting out peanuts in the winter. They have a lot of protein, they have a lot of fat. You can do peanuts in the shell, or you can do the insides of the peanuts called peanut pickouts. And blue jays absolutely love the peanuts in the shell. I've got a red-bellied woodpecker in my backyard that absolutely loves the peanuts in the shell. And there's different ways you can provide them with the peanuts that are fun and functional. And then you might even get things like crows if you're trying to feed some of those crows that might be flying overhead at dusk and at dawn. They will eat corn, they'll eat sunflower seed, they'll also eat peanuts. They really like the peanuts. And then if you're feeding the peanut pickouts, you might find that you get more white-breasted nuthatch, red-breasted nuthatch, which are more common in the winter, and things like the tufted titmouse and chickadees absolutely love the peanut pickouts, the insides of the peanuts. So something to consider if you're looking to add something to your backyard feeding station that you might not have yet. Peanuts are a fabulous way to go. And then, of course, suet, which is very popular in the wintertime. It's these blocks of fat that are great for woodpeckers, the nuthatches, again, the chickadees like them, like the suet. We do have hot pepper suet, just like the seed that's treated with the hot sauce. We do have suet that's treated with the hot sauce. So the birds will eat it, but the squirrels will not. And there's a diversity of different woodpeckers you can find here all year round. We really just have one that's migratory, the yellow-bellied sapsucker, which tends to migrate and not be here in the wintertime. That being said, a couple years ago, a lot of people were reporting them, that they had them all winter long. So you never know, but they don't really come to suet feeders anyway. But we do have things like northern flicker, the bird on the left there. They tend to come to the suet feeders more in the wintertime. So if you don't get them in the spring or in the summer coming to your suet, don't be surprised if you get them in the winter. They're more common at suet feeders in the wintertime. There's also that large pileated woodpecker, which is in the picture on the right. And you can see they're both using the paddle-tail suet feeders. So the suet feeders that have that projection at the bottom, that gives them a place to prop their tail up against, and it just allows them to be upright when they're feeding, and it's easier for them to cling on to. They're not flopping around on the feeder. We also have downy woodpeckers, the little small woodpecker that's about the size of a suet cake. They are here all winter long. The hairy woodpecker, red-bellied woodpeckers, and the pileated woodpeckers. So you can get a pretty good diversity of woodpeckers even in the wintertime as well. And then don't forget to look under your feeders too. Our dark-eyed juncos are back in town, and they are a sure sign that the temperature is about to dip once they come back. They tend to feed underneath the feeders, so they'll clean up any kind of sunflower seeds, or if you've got some millet that's on the ground, they will be cleaning up underneath the feeders, these little gray birds with the pink bill and the white belly, super cute little bird. And then white-throated sparrow, another common bird that you might find underneath your bird feeders this winter. And then look in your trees and shrubs if they are producing any kind of berries. Not only will you maybe get robins coming to them if there's robins that aren't migrating, if there's robins that are sticking around, but you might also get cedar waxwings. Cedar waxwings will be in flocks during the winter, and they are known to devour berries off of trees. So if you're looking for more ways to encourage birds to your backyard, definitely want to put out some berry producing trees. And if you're trying to decide on which ones, you can always visit the Audubon website. The Audubon website has a fabulous guide about native plants and which birds they can attract, and you can put in your location, so it'll have the proper plants for your location. It's a really great resource. Things like northern mockingbird will stay around in the winter. They're more common when it's warmer out, but I just saw one last Saturday. I saw one hanging around. So there are some northern mockingbirds that will stay all winter long. Catbirds and the brown thrasher, they're going down south for the winter, but some northern mockingbirds are going to be here all winter long. Might even see if you've got any kind of trees that produce the pine cones, things like red crossbill. This is another eruptive bird that sometimes come down here in the wintertime. Haven't seen any reports of them yet, but it's a really interesting bird. If you look at its bill, it's actually crisscrossed, and that is an adaptation they have to more easily grab nuts out of pine cones. And sometimes they are reported, especially along the lakeshore. So another bird you might just happen to see. And keep an eye on your trees for things like brown creeper, this small little brown bird that blends in so well with the bark. They're known to creep up the tree, creep up the sides of trees. And coming back to the area in the winter will be things like northern shrike. This small bird is quite menacing, really, if you're a small mammal, or if you're a larger insect. They're known to grab their prey and to pierce it on barbed wire, on spikes of trees. So they can be a pretty gnarly little bird, and they are around all winter long. They're called the northern shrike. Not a common backyard bird, but if you're out birding, you might happen upon these little guys. So in general, if you're looking at your feeder setup and you're not sure how to provide best for birds in the wintertime, you want to make sure you've got yourself a sunflower feeder or some kind of feeder that can have a sunflower seed mix. You want to keep that Niger seed out for those goldfinches and pine siskins and red poles if they happen to come down here. Definitely feed suet. You might want to add peanuts. And then if you're looking towards the future, what other things might I want to have? Keep in mind that you'll want to have an oriole feeder and a hummingbird feeder for those spring migrants once they come in. So if right now, if you still have your oriole feeder out or your hummingbird feeder out, you can absolutely take those down. They're gone for the season, and you can use those hooks for things like maybe another suet feeder that provides a lot of fat, or maybe one of those seed log feeders. That's a new kind of different thing. So that is a good feeder setup recommendation. And then there's the birds of prey. Finally, not only are there all these different songbirds and woodpeckers and things you might get at your feeders, but come the winter, don't be surprised if you start seeing birds of prey hanging around. Now, earlier I showed you the red-tailed hawk. They are here all winter long. They're not super common in backyards, although you might have one just in your neighborhood. But we have birds of prey like the sharp-shinned hawk and the Cooper's hawk that are notorious for going after birds at bird feeders. We just had one at our bird feeder behind the store last week. We saw one swoop in and try to startle. It did startle. Try to grab some of the birds back there at the feeders. They can look quite similar to one another. If you look at the two, they have very similar coloration. The sharp-shinned hawk, however, is quite small, and so sometimes it can be hard to tell the difference between if you have a sharp-shinned hawk or Cooper's hawk. There is overlap in sizes between the two species too, so that can, make it a little bit more difficult. But the sharp-shinned hawks are very, very small. They can be as small as about a mourning dove. So especially the males are smaller than the females. So they can be quite small. So if you see a really, really tiny bird of prey in your backyard, most likely it's a sharp-shinned hawk. Cooper's hawks tend to be more common though in backyards. So we do have both. They are here all winter long. Some other ways you can tell one from the other are sharp-shinned hawks, like in the picture here. They have a rounded head. So they kind of have a small rounded head. And if you can take a look at their tails, if you are able to see their tail tends to be straight at the bottom. So it tends to be kind of like more in a straight line, as opposed to the Cooper's hawk, which has more of a rounded tail when they're perched. The Cooper's hawk also has a larger, more squarish head, which you can see in this photo a little bit. And they're known to have a piercing eye or a menacing eye, that they just look mean, which I think this picture shows pretty well, looks pretty menacing. So these are the two side by side. So you've got that sharp-shinned hawk on the left with its small rounded head, straight tail, and then on the right-hand side, you've got the Cooper's hawk that has that more squarish head, roundish tail, and that menacing eye. So don't be surprised if you see them at your bird feeders this year. There are problem solvers. If you've got birds hanging out in areas you don't want, you can always put up the reflective tape. Birds don't like shiny reflective tape, and we do carry some of this holographic tape that'll help scare them away. We also have a whole bunch of different window decals. If you're getting bird strikes, if you're getting birds striking into your window, we do have decals that can help with that. And then if you are getting into birding and you are looking for some recommendations as far as, maybe a good book or binoculars, we have both of those here. We have fabulous field guides. We have a whole bunch of different binoculars and scopes, actually, including Nikon, Celestron, Vortex. We carry all those lines. We even have some Leica binoculars. And if you're looking for a book, if you're kind of new to birding and you're trying to identify some birds you don't know yet, I can't recommend the Birds of New York book highly enough. It's all organized by color. So if you see a bird that's blue, you flip to the blue section, green, you flip to the green section. Really easy book to use. And of course, we have more advanced guides as well. And then finally, as far as other tools you can keep right in your pocket, the Merlin ID app is fabulous for IDing birds. You can upload photos to it to help get a photo ID. You can also do sound ID, where it will listen to the birds calling in your backyard or wherever you are, and it'll tell you what those are. So it's it's a really, really great tool. Another great tool, so the Merlin app is an app you can download on your phone. It's totally free. It's made by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. And then there's another app too, which is really good, called eBird. And eBird is great if you want to go out birding. If you want to keep a list of all the birds that you're seeing, you can use eBird. And eBird will use your location to show you all the different, what are called hotspots in the area. You can click on all these little pinpoints. All these little pinpoints that'll show up on eBird are places where people have submitted a birding checklist. And so you can see what spots are around you where people have seen birds. It'll show you, here's an example of Highland Park. It'll show you that 172 species have been seen there over time. And there's 41 that you'd be likely to see on that day, whatever day you're looking at the app. So it'll tell you historically how many birds have been seen there, what they are, and then it'll tell you what you're likely to see if you go there. And then it'll also tell you the last time it has been seen. So these are screenshots from, not from today, but this is just kind of a sample to show you the list and what it looks like. So again, at Highland Park, there's been mallards seen, there's been red-breasted mergansers, there's been ringneck pheasant, and it'll tell you when it was last seen, whether it was an hour ago, whether it was 2 days ago, or if it hasn't been reported in the last week, it'll tell you that too. So you can kind of scroll through and see what is there and when. And then you can also use it to track your own birds that you see, and it'll keep track of your birding checklist, which is really fun too. So if you've never tried eBird, it's super fun. Now is a great time to get started with it while the species that we have here aren't so numerous that it can be overwhelming. So it's really, really fun to use, especially if you're getting into birding. And again, it'll show you what birds you're likely to see in an area. So it's fun to scroll through and see what species are around. So that's everything I have for you guys today as far as an intro to attracting birds to your backyard and what you might see in your backyard. Looks like we've got some comments here from people. Bella's saying, hi, Liz and feathered friends. Yes, lots of feathered friends around here. Richard says, hi, Birdhouse. Thanks for the Squirrel Buster tube that Steve helped me with yesterday. Much appreciated. Rick from Syracuse. Anytime, Rick. Yeah, I should mention, as far as the Squirrel Buster bird feeders go, they come with a lifetime warranty, and we're a service center for them. So we can repair them for free, which I'm wondering if that maybe is what Steve did. So yeah, we do bird feeder repairs, and we also do bird feeder cleanings as well throughout the year. We have our free tube feeder cleaning events in April and then again in September, which are totally free. But if you have feeders that need to be cleaned, you can drop them off other times of the year and we'll clean them for $10. So we've got that going on. But anytime you need one of your Squirrel Busters repaired or your Aspects bird feeders repaired, we are a service center for them, and we will do that for you for free. So thank you, Richard, for the feedback, and I'll let Steve know that you said thank you. So let's see how to say this name. Stork LJE, I guess, is fingers crossed you don't have squirrel enjoying spicy food on your garden. Yeah, that's, there are sprays that you can get to put on your vegetables and things if you've got squirrels going after them. But I mean, the squirrel takes a bite out of something and then they ruin it. I had squirrels eating my hot peppers. They'll take a big old bite out of it and then go elsewhere. They probably didn't like the taste of the jalapenos and stuff, but that doesn't stop them from trying. Oh my gosh. I had some squirrel activity myself this year in my garden. Bella's saying spicy squirrel challenge. Oh my gosh. Yeah. There's a TV show. Could have squirrels on Hot Ones or something like that. Stephanie says, I love the varieties of woodpeckers that come to my feeders. I have 2 suet feeders, a peanut pickout feeder, and they even come to my finch feeders since I use the finch favorite seed in those. The pileated woodpeckers never fail to thrill me. Yeah, so if you do have a Niger feeder and you're looking for a little bit something extra to help entice a bigger diversity of birds, we have a birdseed blend called Finch Favorite, which is super popular. It is the Niger seed, and then it's also the ground up sunflower seed. And so that's really popular with not only the finches, but the chickadees like it, the juncos like it. Sometimes I get red-breasted nuthatches coming to it, so you can get a whole bunch of other birds coming to it, not just the finches. Stork says, I have woods around 50 meters away from my fenced garden with lots of squirrels living there, but till now never had an issue stealing food from my feeders. Ooh, well, that is lucky. They might be getting enough natural food out there that they don't have to venture into your yard. That's great. Ed is on and says, we have a seed log at the kitchen window, and when the pileatids swoop in to feed, they practically fill the entire window with their huge black and white wingspan. What a show. I believe it. It would be amazing. Those pileated woodpeckers are quite big. Let's see. And Bella says, I grow super hot peppers as the fence to my garden. Fabulous idea. Stork says common kestrel, common buzzard, and neighbors' cats are another story. Huh. So I'm not sure where they are tuning in from, but I'm curious where they are where Stork is tuning in from, where they have some buzzards. Really cool. Bella says didn't lose a tomato to the deer this year. That is a victory. Ed saying, see my reply below to Stephanie. Let's see. Stork says Merlin Bird ID is a good app. Works amazing also in the EU. Okay, so that answers that question there. So yeah, that's the other neat thing about Merlin is you can download different birding packs for different areas. So even if you're going on vacation somewhere different, you can still download the new birding pack for that area, and it'll help you identify the birds either by sight or by sound to where you happen to be. Storks has helped me a lot to recognize birds here. And let's see, Stork says, do you recommend having a bird bath available to birds also during the winter time? Yes, we do. And that was kind of what we opened with the heated bird baths. So it is possible to provide birds with water all winter long with a heated bird bath. So they plug in, operate on a thermostat that'll keep your water unfrozen. Let's see. And Stephanie says, I put a large safflower log out so my cardinals always have something available. I love how long it lasts. I do the same thing. So yeah, I always have my feeders full, and then I've got my regular seed log. Usually I do the hot pepper because I've got squirrels everywhere. And then I have a safflower log out as well, which doesn't go as fast as the hot pepper log. And the cardinals absolutely love it. And then in the spring, the rose-breasted grosbeaks absolutely love it. So that looks like everybody's comments and questions for today. Thank you guys for all tuning in and for all of your fun conversation. We will be back on Tuesday with another live stream. And until then, have a great weekend, and we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.